Broadcasting from the greatest castle in the world, in the county of Lawrence, NCTV45.
At our law firm, we see you. Come see us at lgkg.com.
NCTV45, The Train, anytime on your time.
Hello, folks. Welcome to NCTV45, and I'm with Scott Brush, owner of Express Employment Professionals in Youngstown, Ohio. And today we're going to be talking about Gen Z and the faces of change. So, Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Good afternoon. I'm native of Lawrence County. I grew up in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania. I graduated from Westminster College, and I had the luxury of working at Wilmington Area School District 28 years as a teacher, and the last 11 years as an athletic director. And at the ripe old age of 54, I decided I wanted some other challenges in life. Wilmington was very good to me. I served on the school board there, and a lot of good people, but I just wanted to go out and see how I could do in business. And so I searched around, and I ended up coming up with the idea of starting a staffing business. And I was fortunate enough to be selected by Express Employment Professionals to buy a territory between Youngstown, Ohio and East Liverpool, Ohio. And so I have all of Mahoning and Columbiana County. I'm one of 900. We have offices throughout the United States, Canada, South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia. Incorporated in Oklahoma City. We have 35 offices in Ohio and 35 in Pennsylvania. I still live in Lawrence County. My office is now in Struthers, Ohio. And I will always live in Lawrence County. And so what we basically do is we have contracts with companies, and we go out and try to find employees from them. We do light industrial, production workers. We also look for skilled trades, office services, and also professional services as well, accounting, IT, etc. I have recruiters, and we try to do the best we can do. It's a tough job market out there. It really is. But what we're going to talk about today at the Faces of Change is something that was given to me by my corporate. And we go out into the field and we talk to employers. And because one of the biggest costs for an employer is turnover. And we talk about, hey, what are some things you can do for retention? How can you retain your employees? And one of the things that we have found that is we're dealing with different generations, and Faces of Change today will take us down through and show us how the baby boomers differ exponentially from the millennials and the Gen Zs, and how we have to talk to them versus how we talk to the baby boomers if we're in supervisory positions.
That's great. Now, what I'm going to do is put the Faces of Change, kind of put myself in the bottom, and we'll be able to go through this as we take a look at the titles. So, Scott, I know you can see what's going on there. I'm
Yes,
going
sir.
to change to the first screen, and I'll just let you go.
Yeah, I think without, insulting anyone's intelligence and reading this word for word, if you go down to the last bulletin point there, the things we try to do with this is when we talk to employers and we feel their pain, their turnover, the retention. So what we're trying to do is say, hey, there might be some small little things you can do to motivate and retain your employees when you're dealing with different generations. Because you may have a supervisor who's my age. I'm 62. I'm a baby boomer, born in 1963. Who's in there in a supervisory position with someone who is a Gen Z. And if you talk to a Gen Z employee like you talk to a baby boomer, you may no longer have that employee. They may walk off a job. And when we're looking at jobs between the $14 and $20 an hour range, there's lots of opportunities for them out there. So you want to do the best you can do to try to create a culture where the age generation you're speaking with, you're on the same level, and you're creating an environment that is conducive to people wanting to work there and not leave you, on a day-by-day basis. It's retention is a huge issue right now for employers.
I found this to be really interesting as you went through from traditionalists all the way up to Gen Z. And this next screen gives you the time range of where everybody is on the
Yeah, and if
chart.
you look at that, the traditionalists, just to give you an age, you look at pre-1946, those individuals are 80 and above. So obviously, very few of those are still in our, work environment. The baby boomers, 1946 to 1964, and we'll see a slide down below, only represents about 8% of the workforce now. And we're losing 10 to 11,000 a day are turning 65, baby boomers. Many of them obviously retiring when they turn 65. It's a very skilled age group. And, it's becoming very difficult. We're starting to see a huge skills gap. And one area that we get some of the biggest concern from employers calling us and saying, hey, can you find me this, are the skilled trades. And when I go out and talk to high school students, because I spoke to them for 28 years as a teacher, one of the things I tell them is, if you're going to college for a particular area, that's great. I went to Westminster. I got a teaching degree. My wife's a registered nurse. She had to go to college. But if you're just going to college to go to college, take a step back and look at the skilled trades. People in the skilled trades today are in huge demand, and they are also making very good money. Very good money.
There you go. Now, this gives you some idea what the traditionalists saw when they were growing up.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Was that a Model T Ford there, maybe?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this was a great group of people. They set the foundation for the rest of us in this country. Very hardworking, but also a group of individuals who had to deal with a lot of adversity in their lives. The stock market crash, World War I, and things of that nature, going through the Great Depression. It was not an easy time to live, and they worked hard.
Now, the time that we kind of come out, this is again traditionalists.
Right.
This is some of their characteristics.
You're right. And again, blue collar, hardworking, team players, and the baby boomers who followed them kind of followed the same path, as we're going to see as we continue to go there. Here are some of the strengths and also challenges of the traditionalists. And again, very few of these individuals are still in, due to their age, still in the work environment.
And that gives you an idea of training traditionalists, if you have any.
Right.
Now, here's the baby boomers.
That's you and I. That's you and I. 1946, and I was a history major and a political science major, and I taught American government history at Wilmington, as well as being the athletic director. And if you look at the year there, 1946, when I talk to people about baby boomers, why is that so significant? Well, World War II ended in 1945. The soldiers come home, and there's an era of opportunity. And we're having large families, and we started having a lot of children in 1946 to 1964. And there's some of the events you see there during that time. We got into the early beginnings of the civil rights era. Unfortunately, the assassination of President Kennedy, the Vietnam conflict, the Korean conflict as well. And it was a rather interesting time. I was born in 1963, so I'm at the tail end of the baby boomers.
I was 1961.
There you go.
That gives you an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Baby boomers, characteristics.
Now, yeah, and I'm sure you would agree with this. Very strong work ethic,
Right.
Very competitive,
Right.
team-oriented. You went to work for a company. My father worked for Penn Power in Newcastle as a lineman for 42 years. My mother was a teacher, elementary teacher, for 30 some years. You went to work for a company and you retired from that company. And
Right.
we get down below, we're going to look at the Gen Zs, and I'm going to give you some statistics on how often they change jobs. It's becoming less and less where someone is hired in by a company and 35 years later, they're retiring from that company. Now, it's not always the employee's fault. It's not always the employer. Sometimes the company goes out of business. But people today tend to jump around a lot more than you and I did.
Yep. Now, the baby boomers, their strengths, their challenges. A lot of those baby boomers are getting jobs, second jobs while they're retired.
That is correct. And, something else is interesting. I can tell you this from firsthand knowledge. When I started in this business nearly 10 years ago, if we were to send out a potential applicant who was 61, 62, 63 years old, you didn't get a lot of response because the thinking was, well, I'm only going to have him for 3 or 4 years. Now, they wouldn't tell you we're not going to hire him because of that, because you certainly don't want to get involved in age discrimination litigation. However, now we send them out, we'll get a call back and say, send them immediately, because they know they're going to show up for work. They know they're hard workers. They know they can pass a drug test. And if they can have them for 3, 4, or 5 years, they're willing to have them. They really are. So your point's well taken. You have people retiring and maybe they're getting a little bored at home. Mom says, maybe you need to get a part-time job. Well, trust me, they're needed in the workforce. We certainly can put them to work.
This is attracting and retaining baby boomers.
Yeah. And this is something that we really talk to the employers about because, again, retention is huge. You hire a new employee, you spend a lot of money training them to do a job, and then next thing you know, they're gone. So retention is so important. But with the baby boomers, retention was, for the most part, never a big consideration. Because again, you started a job, 35, 40 years later, you retired from that company. Those days have changed.
Generation X, 65 to 78.
Yeah, and these people are between the ages of 45 and 60. They're hitting their peak in their job careers. They're very good at what they do. And obviously we know between 1965 and 1978, we had the end of the Vietnam conflict. The civil rights era was still taking place. We get into early 70s and with some of the political areas with Watergate and things of that nature, all the way up through some of the major events that took place, one being the Challenger. And but the Generation X's, again, are between the ages of 45 and 60. Now, what's interesting is a lot of the Generation X's are starting to become the supervisors in these companies that we go out and speak to. They're the bosses now. They're the floor supervisors. They're in charge. So this is very important for them because if you look at some of the skills and traits of the X's, they're similar to the baby boomers. But then we start to see a trend away from that a little bit. So it's really important that the Generation X supervisors understand what the millennials and the Generation Zs really are thinking. And you can see here the X, independent problem solvers, think globally. They like a work-life balance. They're very good families, very good providers. They want to come home after work, go to a ball game, go to the local restaurants, very community oriented.
And I think adaptable really describes that group.
They really are. They really are. They're problem solvers. They look at things and they're able to take a step back and they're able to say, hey, all right, this is how we can fix this problem.
Now, attract and retaining them, it would be similar to the baby boomers, correct?
Yeah, but one thing you're starting to see a little change up when you get in this generation, and look at the first one there, flexible work hours. Baby boomers and traditionalists, you went to work when you were told to go to work. And at 4 o'clock, if they need you for overtime, you stayed for overtime, even if it meant missing your son's ball game. That's the way it was. But now
Yeah.
we're starting to see where we want some flexibility. We want some room to grow in professionally. And, we allow the opportunity to make choices amongst these individuals. So you start to see a slight change in Generation X away from the traditional and also the baby boomers.
Millennials.
Okay, also known as the Gen Ys, 1979 to 1995. They're somewhere in the 28 to 45 age group, somewhere in there. And then, you see there, some of the major events that took place during the millennials. Unfortunately, we have the Twin Towers. To the left, you have, the Columbine, probably one of the first school shootings that kind of set the stage for, unfortunately, where we are today in the schools.
Characteristics.
Yep. And again, I think a lot of us, we all know people in this age group, 28 to 45. And if you look at that, look at social media, the way it's taken off, flexible. They like to have a balance. And, the millennials they're a good workforce. My daughter is 30 years of age, and she's technically a millennial. She's a hard worker. You can see some of the strengths, some of the challenges there.
As I hit the button.
And then
To
again,
attract and retain them.
yeah, and this is one that's very interesting with the group. Sometimes the millennials, when you talk to the supervisors and we bring this up, they say, that's exactly right. They'll say, hey, tell us what the job is. We'll get the job done and we're out of here. So you see the quote coming from the young lady there. Are you paying me to be here or to get the job done? It's not about hours. We're going to be here from 8 till 4 or 8 to 5. It's what's the job? Let's get the job done. And then I'm going to get on with my life's business.
That's interesting. And I think that contributes to that flexibility. And
It
now
does.
we go to Gen Z.
Okay. Gen Z, those are, one thing on this slide that my company didn't do, and if you go out and if you look at some of the artificial intelligence like Chat GPT, they've created another group as well. But the Gen Z can be from 1996 through now, or through about the year 2012, and then you get what they're trying to create a new one called the Gen Alphas. But the Gen Zs, for the most part, those are people born after 1996 that are out there in the workforce on a daily basis. Obviously, if I need my phone fixed or if I'm having a problem, I go find a high school kid. They can do that. Social networking, it's crazy. It really is the amount of time that the Gen Zs spend on social media. Speedy. They expect things done right now. They think you push a button and it instantly happens because they're so used to living in that environment in the social media world.
Now, here's the part that is really like something to look at.
It really is. It really is. So it is 2025 today. So if you look at that graph, only 8% of our baby boomers are still in the workforce. And recall, if you go out and you Google this, it'll tell you between 10 and 11,000 baby boomers a day are turning 65. And then you see the Gen X's we talked about and the millennials and the Z's, and you can see where it's coming together. And it's just really interesting that if you look at a lot of these traits and a lot of these little quirks here and there, and you talk to people in those age groups, it jumps out at you. You say, yeah, that's right. That makes sense. It really does.
Yeah, it does.
And what we try to do is we simply try to tell supervisors, hey, a baby boomer, you could yell at them and motivate them. Gen Zs, there are very few that you can yell at them and motivate them. So you have to use different ways to motivate and retain that age group versus what the baby boomers were able you were able to do with a baby boomer. And it's tough. And then you can see the Z's there. They want a dynamic, fast working environment. They'll multitask. They'll have 4, 5, 6 screens open. I'm sitting here in my office. I have 2 screens. I've walked into places where they have 5 screens, and you got a 22-year-old managing 5 screens and on their phone as well.
I think the most important, though, is Gen Z is mobile first and mobile only.
And that is so true. That is so true. And we actually get people that will call our office and they'll say, what type of remote jobs do you have available? And they're younger and they want to work from home and they want to be mobile. And there are a lot of jobs today where you can do that, where you can be sitting on the beach in Florida working just like you were if you were sitting in your office in Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
And that's what hurts, I think, is that's not all jobs. It's particular.
It's not. Like, I'm sitting really close to a company in downtown Struthers called Astro Shapes. They own 3 other companies. They have over 1,000 employees. And as of last week, they had over 100 openings with positions.
Wow.
But every one of those jobs require you to go in because they do aluminum extrusion. So you can't make an aluminum product sitting at home on your computer. You got to be at the company working. So that is not a mobile position. You have to be there. This is pretty interesting as well, though, too. If you look at this, I find this pretty enlightening. 38% of the Generation Zs, what makes them, what do they expect from their employer and how important is it? Healthcare coverage, vacation time, flexibility. And if you look at the one on the right, how important is that the company you work for have some type of a wellness program? 31% say that's somewhat important.
Yeah.
35% say that's extremely important. So, these are things we also talk to them about. We go out, we'll say, what's your wellness program? And sometimes we'll have a business they've been in business for 50 years. And they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Really. Yeah. That's a different 5 best practices, generationally friendly companies.
What we've noticed, and again, we have 35 offices in Ohio, and all 35 owners in Ohio are on a call twice a week. So I kind of get a feel for what's going on in Cincinnati, Columbus, Toledo, Cleveland, as well as Youngstown, which I think Youngstown, Newcastle, we're the same. There's just an arbitrary line that says Ohio, Pennsylvania. But where we find and what we hear is from all the owners, the companies that are having trouble retaining employees. If you go out and you take an honest evaluation of it and you look at it, it's usually a culture issue. There's some type of a toxic culture in that environment, which is causing them to have huge turnover. So if you don't want to have huge turnover, people think it's just money. It's not. We have a couple of places we staff for. They pay very well into the mid-20s, and they have retention issues. And it's because they have a toxic environment. They don't treat their employees the way employees need to be treated. And when we tell the supervisors, hey, you know what? You got to treat the custodian and you got to treat your lowest paid worker with every bit as much respect as you got to treat the CEO of your company. And if you don't, you're going to have issues. So treat people with respect and treat them like you would want to be treated, or you'd like your children to be treated.
And there you go. Express employment professionals. Yeah. So that gives you a great idea of what exactly you guys do over there. And there I put your phone number up again and everything so you could see it. We really appreciate the time spent on this interview and the time taken to talk about this, because I think it goes beyond the employment thing. I think it reaches into families and relationships, what you just said. And therefore there you do see a change
You do.
in how you relate to these Gen Z. I'm an older parent. My kids are early 20s,
Mm-hmm.
and they're Gen Z. And let's go through this process. Let's work it to the end. And they're like, no, I don't want to be bothered with the process. And I think that's really important. So, Scott, why don't you give them your phone number, everything, how to get a hold of you if they'd like you to come out and do some assessments?
Sure. We can be reached. You see the number up there at 330-333-7031. Or if you simply just Google us, Express Employment, Youngstown, Ohio, we usually come up on the Google search, either first or second on the list. And we appreciate the good Google reviews that we get from people that work for us. And if you're out there, if you need a job, reach out to us. We have 35 offices in Pennsylvania as well. I know the owner very well, who owns the Lawrence County and Mercer County offices. He's out of Butler, Pennsylvania. He also has the Butler office. But we also go over into Western PA and help as well. So if you're either looking for a job or you're a company owner and you need some help, give us a call and we'll do our very best. We don't have a crystal ball. It's a tough work environment out there. We know that. But we're simply another set of eyes where we think that we can possibly give you some good ideas and help you out a little bit.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for all the time spent here on NCTV45. Really appreciate it. And folks, don't be afraid to give them a call, 330-333-7031. And Scott will be happy to take some time and talk to you. For NCTV45, and I want everybody to know, we're going to run this as a Focus NC, but we're also going to run it in our News Watch segment over the next few days and through the weekend. So make sure you tune in to NCTV45, Lawrence County's community television station, available anytime on your time. Scott, thanks again, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay, thank you, and go Lawrence County. Take care.
Newcastle's Eastside Pharmacy, locally owned and your #1 choice for all your pharmacy needs. Whether it's prescriptions, supplements, wheelchair rentals, and so much more. Eastside Pharmacy, with that local touch, cares about you. They even have greeting cards for that get well wish, Band-Aids, and all kind of supplies. Eastside Pharmacy, 708 East Washington Street in Newcastle. Call 734-658-4557. On Target Printing, 1319 West State Street. No job is too big or too small. Turnaround on most jobs, 24 hours. We make you look good on paper.